The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the marble floors of the Sinclair mansion, each prism of light worth more than most people earned in a year. Elena Martinez moved silently through the opulent halls, her worn hands clutching a feather duster that had seen better days. She was invisible here, just another pair of hands that kept the gleaming surfaces spotless, the Persian rugs immaculate, the legacy untarnished. But Elena carried a secret that would shake the very foundations of this glittering world. Alexander Sinclair III sat in his private study, surrounded by monitors displaying stock tickers, real estate portfolios, and the empire his grandfather had built from nothing. At 35, he had everything: Ferraris in the garage, a private jet on standby, penthouses in every major city. Yet lately, the champagne tasted flat. The designer suits felt like costumes. And the parade of socialites seeking his attention seemed choreographed and hollow. He found himself watching her sometimes, the quiet woman who cleaned his office every Tuesday and Thursday at precisely 6 a.m., while others on his staff chattered and gossiped. She moved through the mansion like a ghost, never asking for anything, never drawing attention to herself. There was something different about her eyes. They held stories, depths that seemed out of place in someone society had relegated to the shadows. One rainy Tuesday morning, everything changed. Alexander had worked through the night, wrestling with a merger that could add another billion to his fortune. As dawn broke, he heard the soft click of his study door. Elena entered, startled to find him still there. For a moment, their eyes met, and he saw something flash across her face, not fear, but recognition, as if she had been caught in a spotlight she had deliberately avoided. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sinclair. I'll come back later," she whispered, already turning to leave. Wait. The word escaped his lips before he knew why. Perhaps it was exhaustion, or perhaps it was the way the morning light caught the intelligence in her eyes. Do you ever wonder why you're here? Cleaning houses instead of something else. Elena's fingers tightened on her cleaning supplies. For 7 years, she had maintained her silence, her cover, her penance. But something in his question, the genuine curiosity, the hint of his own questioning, made her pause. "We all have our reasons, Mr. Sinclair. Sometimes the path we walk is not the one we chose, but the one we must take." Her voice. It was different when she allowed herself to speak, fully educated, refined, carrying an accent that wasn't quite American. Alexander leaned forward, suddenly alert. "You're not just a maid, are you?" The silence stretched between them like an invisible wire, humming with tension. Elena could walk away, maintain the carefully constructed life she had built. Or she could trust, for the first time in years, that perhaps not everyone was her enemy. She set down her cleaning supplies and lifted her chin. "Once, I was Dr. Elena Vasquez. I held a doctorate in international humanitarian law from Oxford. I worked for the United Nations, advocating for displaced children in war zones." Alexander's eyes widened, his billion-dollar deals forgotten. What happened? The story poured out like water from a broken dam. Elena had uncovered corruption at the highest levels, officials selling aid supplies meant for refugee children. Powerful people trafficking the very souls she had sworn to protect. She had documented everything, prepared to expose them. But they were faster, more ruthless than she had imagined. "They destroyed everything," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My credentials, my reputation, my family's safety. My younger sister Maria, she was only 16 then. They threatened her life. So I ran. I disappeared into the shadows of this city, became invisible, changed my name. I sent money to keep Maria safe in hiding. I became what they would never look for: a maid, a nobody, a ghost." Tears traced silent paths down her cheeks. "Every floor I clean, I think of the children I couldn't save. Every mansion I walk through, I remember the tents they sleep in, the hunger in their eyes. This is my punishment and my penance." Alexander stood, his heart hammering against his ribs. All his wealth, all his power, And here stood a woman who had sacrificed everything for others. She was richer than he could ever be. "What if I told you that you don't have to hide anymore?" he said softly. "What if I told you that I have resources, connections, security that those people can't touch?" Elena laughed, but it was tinged with sadness. "Mr. Sinclair, you don't understand the world I came from. These aren't businessmen you can negotiate with. These are monsters who then we expose them." His voice was steel now, the same tone that commanded boardrooms and bent markets to his will. "I have investigators, lawyers, media connections. More importantly, I have something they don't, the truth, and someone brave enough to speak it." For the first time in 7 years, Elena felt something she thought had died hope. Over the following months, the billionaire and the maid became unlikely allies. Alexander's penthouse became a war room. He assembled a team of the world's best investigative journalists, human rights lawyers, and security experts. Elena provided the evidence. She had hidden documents, recordings, testimonies smuggled in the lining of the only suitcase she had escaped with. But something else was growing between them, more precious than justice, more rare than truth. Alexander saw in Elena a strength that humbled him. She had lost everything and remained kind. She cleaned toilets in mansions and never became bitter. She had every reason to hate the wealthy, yet she treated everyone with dignity. She taught him that true wealth was unmeasured in bank accounts, but in the courage to stand for others when standing cost you everything. Elena saw in Alexander something she had never expected: a man willing to use his privilege as a weapon for good, not gain. He spent his fortune hiring security for her sister, relocating her family to safety, building a case so airtight that not even the corrupt officials could escape its grip. Late one night, surrounded by documents in his study, Alexander looked up to find Elena watching him with soft eyes. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked. "This is dangerous. It could damage your reputation, your business empire." He crossed the room, taking her hands, hands that had scrubbed his floors, hands that had saved children, hands that held more courage than he had ever possessed. "Because you showed me what I had forgotten," he said. "That money means nothing if you don't use it to make meaning. That power is wasted unless it protects the powerless. You were never just a maid, Elena. You were a teacher I didn't know I needed." Tears sparkled in her eyes like the diamonds she wore cleaning gloves around. "And you were never just a billionaire. You were a man waiting to become who he was meant to be." The story broke on a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 year after they had first truly spoken. The headlines screamed across every major outlet. Billionaire and former UN advocate expose massive child trafficking ring. The evidence was irrefutable. Arrests were made. The corrupt officials fell like dominoes. Elena stood beside Alexander at the press conference, no longer invisible, no longer afraid. She wore a simple blue dress, no diamonds, no designer labels, but she shone brighter than any socialite who had ever graced his arm. "For years, I hid in the shadows," she told the gathered reporters, her voice strong and clear. "I thought I was protecting those I loved by disappearing. But I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step into the light and fight." Alexander added, "We live in a world where we judge people by their job titles, their bank accounts, their addresses. We forget to see their hearts, their struggles, their incredible stories. This woman, who society relegated to invisible labor, is the bravest person I have ever known." The Sinclair Foundation was established that year, dedicated to protecting whistleblowers and displaced children. Elena became its director. Maria, her sister, safe at last, enrolled in college. The mansion still had staff, but Alexander knew all their names now. Asked about their families, paid them wages that honored their humanity. And Elena, she never forgot where she came from. Every morning she would touch the simple cleaning cloth she kept framed in her new office, a reminder that dignity is not determined by what you do, but by how you do it. 2 years later, in a small ceremony attended by reformed billionaires and former maids, surrounded by children they had helped rescue, Alexander and Elena exchanged vows. There were no ice sculptures or celebrity performances. Just two souls who had found in each other the rarest thing, a love built on respect, sacrifice, and the courage to see beyond surfaces. "You uncovered my secret," Elena whispered as they danced their first dance. "No," Alexander replied, holding her close. "You uncovered mine. That I was a billionaire who had forgotten what it meant to be rich. The real wealth," they both discovered, "wasn't in what you possessed, but in who you became when you chose love over fear, justice over comfort, and courage over silence." And somewhere, in refugee camps and shelters around the world, children slept safely because a maid refused to stay invisible, and a billionaire learned to finally see.